Is side hustling the key to your financial freedom? Part two. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Shut Up and Work podcast. I am your host, the coach, and along with me is SJ. SJ, how are you doing today?
Hey, Coach, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. I hope everybody out there is doing well too.
Yes, yes. And as you know from the last episode we did, which was Is side hustling a key to your financial freedom? Well, we got a little more we want to share with you. We're going to do a part two. And before we jump right into it, please continue to go out there, like, share, comment, and subscribe to our podcast and pass it along to people that you know may be in need to hear this information, and continue to support us so we can grow this platform and we can reach out to more people who are in need of this information. So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. All right, SJ. So, last time we kind of stayed on the side hustling part, but let's go to the other section. Let's say that you don't want to do any of the side hustles on the platform, and you may not have a passion that generates money, or that you feel that if you put out there it will take a long time to try to generate money. Let's go the old school route and let's talk about if you went out and got a second job. So go ahead, SJ.
Absolutely. So I referenced this a little bit in our last podcast, but there was a time when I was a little bit underemployed. Well, I won't say a little bit, a lot underemployed. And that lasted for quite some time due to my geographical location. And I heard about a part-time job that a lot of my coworkers were working at. And I really wanted to get out of the job that I was at. And the part-time job paid better than the job that I was at as well. So I went ahead and got employed over there. And no, of course, it wasn't ideal, but it did put me in a position where I was able to save a lot of money. First of all, I direct deposited that big check into an entirely different bank account. I would suggest that, or if not a different bank account, then at least a different account, a savings account, a money market account, something that so that you can separate those two incomes so that you can see your growth. So at first I did use it to catch myself up and get out of debt. But then secondly, after I accomplished that, which happened much faster than I would have expected, I was able to save a lot of money, thousands of dollars, without even realizing it, because it was all directing into a second account. And let me just remind you that a lot of times, if you have a direct deposit going into a bank account, they will not charge you to maintain that bank account.
Mm.
So that's another reason, another incentive for you keeping that separate. But of course, you'll have to do your own research and see what works best for you. In
Mm.
addition to myself, I'll talk about one of my current coworkers who I really admire. He has a great work ethic. He's very educated. He's very professional. He has a professional job, but he is still humble enough to go and do part-time jobs. Like he works in retail and makes extra money that way. He's done DoorDash as well. He makes money that way. So even though, because honestly, I'll be completely honest, and I've asked him about this even. I asked him, some people kind of know who you are from your job. Why, and they know what level and what status you're at. Why would you go and work a job that's you're so overqualified for? And he was like, shmoney, I gotta get this money, and so at first I kind of thought that was a little bit crazy, but sometimes you do have to sacrifice in the present so that you can attain your goals in the long term. And right now, we've been hearing for so long that nobody wants to work after COVID, right? The service industry is in dire need. Let me tell you, where I'm living right now, there is a particular fast food chain
Uh-huh.
that is so desperate to have people work during the tourist season they're paying $19 an hour.
Wow.
Yes, I think that that's pretty significant. So one thing I will say is if you're going to get a part-time job as opposed to a side hustle, Coach, I really like what you said, and it was really informative and helpful for me about the difference between a side hustle and a part-time job. So if you didn't hear that podcast, definitely check out that episode.
Yep.
But sometimes it's a little bit hard to put the time and energy in finding the right way or building up your business so that you can get clients if you want to do something on your own as a consultant or a freelancer, Fiverr, Upwork, something along those lines. But again, invest in yourself because it's worth it. That's something that I'm doing. Um, but you can also find something that's easy to do. It doesn't stress you out. Hopefully, it can be a little bit fun. Maybe it'll give you a great discount, anything along those lines. There are really a lot of opportunities. You might be able to do some work from home, some type of customer service work. You might be able to do customer service in terms of in a restaurant, in retail, something along those lines, but definitely try to get as much money as you can because there are places out there that need the help and now they're willing to pay for it.
Great
So
point.
that's something that I would advise as well. Don't just take the first thing. I know that previously a lot of people were in a position where they had to do whatever they had to do to keep this job. And in the state of Texas, the minimum wage is really low. So find a way to get out of that minimum wage. There are other options for you where you can make twice that. And you don't necessarily have to have education or previous experience, but people need to hire employees.
Great points. Great points. And something I want to add to that is what you said earlier when you were talking about the gentleman. Sometimes, in some cases, I know people, and this almost happened to me also, is where I took a second job one time. I was in the military, and this particular place that I was working for just on the weekends to earn extra money, because where I was stationed at this location, the cost of living was so high. It was in the North Bay area of California. And a lot of us in the military, even though we were living off base, the housing allowance that the military gave us just wasn't enough. I mean, that the rent ate into my base housing allowance plus my regular basic pay. So I took a second job over the weekend at this bioenvironmental firm, and it was an easy job. You was just basically sorting out paint, uh, disposing old light bulbs, things like that. That was going to be harmful, if it was broken out in the public or anything in that situation. So it was an easy job, and you can work. I remember the times were like from 8 hours to 12 hours or however long you wanted to work. And you could also work during the weekdays if you wanted to. Well, anyway, make a long story short, I remember working there and one of the supervisors approached me and said, "Hey, how would you like to work full time?" And of course, at that time, I was like, well, hey, I'm still active duty military, and I haven't, my orders, or excuse me, my re-enlistment orders haven't come up yet where I could decide to either get out the military and look for a full-time job or re-enlist. And so basically the manager just told me, he said, well, if you're getting out the military, hey, we pay X amount of dollars per hour plus benefits, this and that. And if you want to negotiate your salary, we'll be open to do that. We like the way that you work, and we would like you to be a permanent employee in our company. So as you were speaking, as SJ, sometimes a second job can be beneficial in that situation. And you can find something that's even better if you're able to work there full time, and you may be able to transition out of that primary job and go to that job, that secondary job, and you might, who knows, you might be happier, you might get promoted. Anything could happen that will be in a positive situation. So I just wanted to throw that part in there. How do you feel about it?
Absolutely. I think that you sometimes just have to try things out. And it's a good feeling to know it is freedom, not necessarily just financial freedom, but when you know, hey, I don't need this job, I'm not depending on it, I can leave at any time. So, what happened with me and my part time job, first of all, I was interested in this particular employer because I was familiar with them. They were in the same industry that I work in.
Hmm.
Whereas at the time I was working a completely different job. So I'm not sure if you guys realize this, but my background is communications. I studied communications. I have a degree in communications. I've been working in communications for 20 years. But I could not work in communications because of where I was located, or at least I couldn't get a job that I wanted in communications. So I just had to work a job in order to pay the bills. So
Hmm.
this particular company was also in communications. However, it did not do the type of work that I wanted to do. Well,
Right.
I'm already stuck in a situation where I'm underemployed and I'm not doing the type of work that I would usually be doing. Let me go do it for this company because now I'm an internal candidate.
Hmm.
So when an opportunity arises, because I knew eventually I would be able to move again, when an opportunity arises, I'm already an internal candidate. I've already made a name for myself. I've been successful in this company. I've been letting everybody know, my managers, my coworkers, what my goals are, so that when an opportunity arises, they should be able to think of me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I did end up transitioning. I got to quit the job that I hated, and I was able to become a full-time employee at the company that I was only working with part-time. Now, it still wasn't the position that I wanted to be in. It wasn't the type of work that I wanted to do, but it did help me to free myself from the other place. I got paid more money.
Mm.
And I was now that much closer to getting back to the professional level position that I wanted to be at. And this is an international company. So I'm also thinking, even before I started working there, if I want to leave, and live abroad somewhere, I can do it with this company because they're global. So just be open to the possibilities. And, depending on what your circumstances are, that's a very popular thing right now to think about maybe living abroad, working abroad, being able to work from home. One of the side hustles that I read about a lot is that people are able to leave the country and write about their travels, write about their experiences. I haven't tapped into that. That's not something I'm really going to pursue, but there are endless possibilities. We limit ourselves. So keep your mind open and don't limit yourself.
Yep. That is a great point that you bring up. And I like that. So, yeah, I will say that will be the third option. As I stated earlier, if you have a passion and you can go out there and monetize that passion. And for people out there listening, you don't, when I say monetize, you don't need to start off where you making $50,000 per little project you complete or whatever. If you can do that starting off, by all means, go for it. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to do that. I mean, you could start off real low. You may start off with $100 per project and then work your way up to that level. So if you do have that passion, then pursue that passion and monetize it. If you don't have that passion, but you've like, hey, I could go out and deliver groceries to somebody, then try to join one of those platforms, as I stated in the other episode, like a Uber Eats or a Postmates or something to that nature. And then if you don't have that, if you want to go an opposite route, then go ahead and try to look for a second job. Because as we're stating, you may find something better in that second job, or you may find something better to the effect that you could get a promotion it might have better health benefits, or it might have room for you to have a promotion, or maybe that second job you get bonuses in that situation. So there's all types of options out there for you if you are trying to achieve or trying to grow or trying to do something on your own where you can leave that primary job in that situation. So these are a lot of things that you can go out here and look at and make decisions on. So I would say sit down maybe on a Sunday or a Saturday or during the week and find you a quiet space, and for about 10 or 15 minutes just write down some ideas of what your passions are, or if you want to work for a platform, or if you are looking for a second job. Go over it, write down the pros and cons of what you would want to do and how you would want to do it. And then write down your goal as far as what are you trying to do? Are you trying to pay off debt? Or are you just trying to save money? Or are you just trying to have something to fall back on just in case you lose your primary job? Whatever your goal is for you and your family, you determine that. And once you decide that, then go for it. Have a plan, be strategic about it, and go for what you know and try to accomplish your goals. So that's all that I have on that topic. SJ, you have anything else you would like to share?
That's great advice, Coach. I'll just say that it's a good opportunity. If there's something particular that you're interested in, for example, if you've always wanted to have a restaurant or you've always wanted to have your own store, but you've never worked in the industry, why would you think that you would have all the knowledge that you need to get started with that? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, and this is probably not going to be a popular opinion. I
Uh-huh.
get really frustrated because I meet so many people who say, I'm so tired of working for somebody else. I can't work for anybody else anymore. I need to just work for myself. I need to be my own boss.
Uh-huh.
Well, of course, we all get tired of that, but you have to be honest with yourself and ask you a question. How much of your problems are you contributing to? Are you creating yourself?
Right.
Imagine if you had an employee like yourself. Would they be an asset to you or a liability?
Right.
If you think it's difficult to work for somebody else where you get to clock out and leave and you don't have to think about anything when you're not on the clock, what are you going to do when you literally have to work 7 days a week, all the time, can't take vacation because you have to run everything yourself?
Hmm.
So while I'm not trying to discourage anybody from becoming an entrepreneur or following their dreams or following their passions, you know how I'm always going to say, please be realistic, because I know a lot of my friends, and I love you dearly, you want to have your own businesses, but it's hard enough for you to just maintain a job. So how are you gonna start and open and maintain a business?
Yeah, no, I'm laughing. I think that's funny in what you're saying. It's true
It's
what you're
true.
saying, and it's funny at the same time because I've heard that thing from people a lot too. I've heard that from a lot of people saying what you just mentioned. And a good point, a good story, if you people out there that are listening, what you can do, look up the gentleman. His name, I believe his first name is Ulysses H. Junior Bridgman or something like that. Junior Bridgman or Ulysses Junior Bridgman. The guy was a former basketball player, and he played back in the 70s all the way until maybe like the mid 80s, I think, before he retired. And he had a good basketball career. He was a decent player. He wasn't a star player, but he was very, a very good, decent player out there. Um, but what this gentleman did in the off season, he as you said, SJ, how you laid it out, he was one of those people that were like, hey, I want to have my own restaurant or something like that. So he went and just took a basic job at a Wendy's. That's right, Wendy's, the fast food place, the hamburger place. And for a couple of seasons, in his off seasons, for a couple of years, when the season was over, he would just go in there and work as a regular worker, frying the hamburgers, putting the fries in the grease, doing all the stuff. What he was doing, he was learning the operations every day of what it took to maintain a fast food restaurant. Well, anyway, spoiler, that gentleman, he went on to own like over 130 Wendy's restaurants. He was like the second largest franchisee for the company at one time. And then he ended up buying, I believe it was over 100. Was it Chili's or Outback? One of those two. You people have to go out and do the research and read about them. And then what he did recently here in the last 5 or 10 years, he sold back majority of his Wendy's restaurants and his Chili's restaurants, and he became a bottler for Coca-Cola. So I mean, this guy's like big time. So what my reason for mentioning him and telling everyone his story is that, as you mentioned, SJ, he went out and he jumped both feet first in the fast food restaurant business before he went out and purchased a restaurant business. And he was learning at the lower level of, hey, how does this maintain? Am I a good employee? What do the employees do when the manager is not around? Are they going to work? Are they going to do this? He knew everything A to Z and how to run that restaurant before he went out and bought several of those restaurants. You kind of get with where I'm going.
Yes, absolutely.
And
He informed himself, he educated himself.
exactly, firsthand. And so, like you said, he didn't just go out there, invest, drop all this money, and buy a Wendy's, and then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 months later, well, the hell with this. I don't want this damn restaurant. No, he got in it, worked as a regular employee. I'm sure he went through the rough, tough, and dangerous in there. And then he decided, hey, okay, my Wendy's, I can innovate, I can do this, I can manage people, I can do these things before he made that big leap. Anyway, go ahead, SJ.
No, I think that's so smart. That
Mhm.
is a great idea. I get it. Have dreams, have goals, but try to be practical and logical
Right,
and realistic in employing them. If you could get information about how somebody is successfully doing what you want to do, why wouldn't you?
right. Exactly. Exactly. And I totally agree with that.
There's money out there, and I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go get me some more because you can never have enough.
Especially living in America, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, everything keeps going up and nothing ever goes back down.
It sure doesn't.
Yep. The land of the free and the home of the brave.
All
Yeah.
right, coach, don't get me started. Don't get me
No,
started because
no, I know I'm being sarcastic. I'm
I
being
was about to say, I might not even be here in this country. Give me a couple of years.
I know.
Moving abroad is looking more and more attractive to me, and that's something that I've been looking into also.
You and me both. I mean, that is something to keep in mind and trust me. And we could do a future segment on that coming up here, about the cost of living and things like that. But for now, we're just talking about ways, if you are trying to get that financial freedom, we was just kind of discussing some ways you can go about doing it, especially as SJ mentioned earlier in the podcast. If you don't have the ability or whatever to build a Fortune 500 business right up out of the ground, and it may not be that you don't have the ability, you may not have the time to put in the effort to do that. So those were the
Ooh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, coach, but let me say this. This is something that I also never understand. Why would you quit your job and then start something that has no guarantee, no anything behind it? Like, I know that you've got to take risks in order to be successful, but when you have a job, when you have steady income, I understand that not everybody is built like this and not everybody has the ability to do two things at once. But this is the world that we're living in. You need to be able to multitask. So do both. Don't think that you have to do one or the other. That's what the side hustle is all about. Do both. You
Right.
won't have to do both forever, but make some sacrifices for your future.
Yeah.
I think that that's a value or an idea that people have forgotten about. Like, I'm going to reference the movie Acrimony. Coach, have you ever seen that movie?
No, no, I haven't.
Well, it's a Tyler Perry movie, and
Oh
it's
God.
basically
Details of a man putting on a dress, huh?
no, this has nothing to do with that. It's not a Medea movie. It's a Tyler Perry movie. Coach, you might want to check this one out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you to check this one out because I would love to know what your thoughts are. So, in this movie, there's a man and a woman. They meet in college, and they're both very intelligent. They're both successful and doing well. But the man has a brilliant idea for an invention, and he's working on it for years and years, from college all the way through when he's a grown adult.
Mhm.
And I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's been out for several years now. So,
Oh,
spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie and you're really worried about it, then too bad. They get
go ahead.
married,
Uh-huh.
and she supports him financially. He does not ever work because he is only working on this project and this invention. And the whole time I am asking not only myself, but everybody else, why can't he do both? Why can't he get a job so that he can contribute to his household and work on this project at the same time? Why can't he do both?
Well, I think it depends on the person. And let me say this, not taking up for the man. I haven't seen the movie, but I know me personally. I can't have two things going at once that I'm passionately working at. One of them is going to be the passion, and one of them is going to be devoted to partially my attention. And it's going to be the bad attention, if you get with what I'm talking about. So there has been in history a lot of successful people who have built Fortune 500 companies. They have done those things that you're describing that's going on in this movie, to where they didn't work no other job. They kept focusing on perfecting that invention or that craft or whatever it was to serve the needs of people. And like you said, it took them years to do it. And there were a lot of people who got evicted from their homes where they were staying. They slept on the floor, or stayed with a family or a friend or something in that nature to see that thing through. And once they saw it through, they reaped all the rewards and then some in that situation. So I will say that. And I understand where you're coming from, SJ. If you're able to do that, to go to work and focus and do what you're supposed to do from being fired from that job, plus go home or wherever you're going and work another 8 to 10 to 12 hours working on something that you love. So I get that to a certain extent, but then, as I said, I know me personally, I could not do both. If I had to work a job, then most of my focus is going to be on that job. And then my passion or whatever that I'm trying to achieve, yeah, I can maybe put 30 minutes or an hour into it. And then I'm going to get tired. I'm going to deflate. And my focus is not going to be there as I should to make it work. So I could just speak on that part of it. But anyway, go ahead, SJ.
I understand what you're saying. I definitely do. But coach, I got to disagree with you because I don't even know all your business like that. But I
Mhm.
do know that currently you're working on multiple projects. You're juggling. You have a lot of balls in the air. Now you have gotten to
Not
the point where
anymore.
you have freed yourself financially in terms of you don't have to work for anybody
Mhm.
anymore, but you've set it up so that you have multiple streams of income coming in. But this is one of the projects that you're working on. This podcast is one
Right.
of the projects that you're able to dedicate a lot of time on, but you're still working on several other things. And I'll say this also,
Not really.
everybody does not have the luxury. If you do that, you have to have a benefactor. Somebody has to take care of you. Somebody has to pay for you. I'm
Yeah,
just not set up like that. You know, my parents took
agree.
care of me when I was a child and they raised me so that I could take care of myself.
Right.
So I don't really have the option of letting somebody else take care of me. Yes, you have to make sacrifices. I definitely get that. I know all about making sacrifices. Trust me.
Agreed.
But I also feel like, no, you can't dedicate 8 hours a day to it's just like when you're looking for another job, though. They say that finding a job is a full-time job, but who actually looks for a job 8 hours a day? I know there are going to be a whole bunch of hands going up, and I've seen a lot of people who claim this, and I've even claimed it myself, and I do that sometimes, but not 40 hours a week, not 5 days a week, not continuously for weeks and months. And I've been on the job hunt a lot over the years. So I'm just saying that, especially in this day and age, in the direction that things are going in, the direction that society is going in,
Uh-oh. SJ?
healthy, they'll take care of you. Maybe you marry somebody who's willing to take care of you. You know, in this instance, I'm going to let y'all watch the movie if you haven't already and decide for yourself. But that's the whole purpose. And I've had a very interesting conversation with quite a few people about that exact dilemma. So, coach, let me know when you watch that movie so we can have this discussion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most definitely. And it's not just that movie. I've seen several movies or documentaries detailing different people uh and what they were able to do and accomplish. And again, we'll get more into that discussion, but a lot of people wasn't wired that way. And I will also discuss kind of my journey because I know you say, well, the coach, and I appreciate that. Hey, you got several projects, but not really. I really don't. And one of the main things of what I made sure that I was going to do when I made that leap to leave that full-time job was that I wasn't going to keep a whole bunch of irons in the fire. But we'll go into detail on that in the future. I think that will be a great discussion as you brought up, SJ. And I do agree with you on some of those points, and then we'll get into what the disagreement is on those points. But yeah, that's another movie. I'll check it out if I can find it. And I also ask people to check out The Founder. That's another great movie. That's about Ray Kroc, the guy who took over McDonald's. He didn't invent McDonald's, but he managed to get into the company and take it over. The Banker is also another awesome movie, kind of to what you're talking about, SJ, with the actors Anthony Mackie and Samuel L. Jackson.
I
That
got to
was,
see that movie.
yes, that's a great movie. And as well as several others. Also, a show, it comes on every Sunday on the History Channel. And I know last year I was just glued to this show all day long. And basically, it's a documentary show of how the men built America, how fast the men who built fast food, or the men and women who built the liquor business, things like that. It's a lot of interesting stories of brand name stuff that you see every day. and how these people got started, how these entrepreneurs, what they did, what they sacrificed, how they were on the streets and stuff like that, but they stayed focused on their goal, and how they were able to have that one stroke of luck and become a millionaire or a billionaire, and everything was all good. So I encourage people, if that is coming on, especially throughout the summer, check out a few of those episodes on the History Channel, and it'll be something to the effect how fast food built America, how ice cream built America, how all these different things, how alcohol built America, and things like that. So with that being said, I don't have anything else. SJ, do you have anything else you would like to add or end with?
I think we can wrap it up today.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And I always enjoy the discussion. And we hope that you do too. And just drop down in the comments, what do you think? What do you think is the best way to approach making some extra income? Whether you think it's the traditional way, or if by getting a second job, or if you have a skill that you can go out and make money off on, maybe it's side hustling, or maybe you just gonna go balls to the wall and pull it out of the mud and build you a Fortune 100 or 300 company or something in that nature, and maybe sell it for millions of dollars and get rich that way. Whatever it is, just let us know and put it out there. So, with that being said, thank you once again for tuning in to the Shut Up and Work podcast. And please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing information to you like this on a daily basis or a weekly basis. How about that? So, with that, y'all have a great time, have a great evening, and we will talk to you next time. Take care.